Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Dutsy Gaming and the last episode of the 1x Tornado Shot journey. So when I last left off, I'd completed my 20 yellow maps and I'd gone on a bit of a shopping spree to upgrade the character. So I'm now sitting on a measly 53 chaos with only 20 red maps standing between us and Sirus. So what I will do is just quickly go through the defenses that we upgraded on the character last time, but I'm only really going to briefly touch on it. So I've added in Enduring Composure to get endurance charges. We've taken Ghost Dance along with Life as extra ES on the chest. And then we've added in a cast when damage taken Immortal Call, because with endurance charges I can get a pretty decent Immortal Call that should keep me alive in dodgy situations. Regarding DPS, it's probably between 1 to 2 million DPS depending on how the ballistas are doing. So it's nothing amazing and Sirus isn't going to be a quick fight. But it is something I want to try and get done. Now, I was thinking long and hard about how I want to do these red maps, because the way I've done white and yellow is I started off in the lower tier ones and then progressed to the higher tier ones. But the map showcase was pretty easy on the tier 11 map, so I've made the decision to try and make as much money as I can out of these 20 maps to do them all tier 14 and higher so that I can put influence on the maps. Now, the one thing that's difficult is Atlas Tree-wise, I've got plenty of points to spend. The issue is that I can't really take stuff like Expedition and Harvest and Legion and Breach, because if they get at the end of the map and I've already got, say, 5 or 6 increased damage buffs on me from the altars, I've got zero chance of doing those with this character, even with 6 portals. So unfortunately, the 53% XP that I've accumulated through this series is definitely going to be going, because we are definitely going to farm the altars. So we'll go and take the nodes that we need on the tree. I'm going to do Sirus and Exile because I've also completed a few maps to get some Pantheons, and I've got Burning Ground immunity, so it makes sense to run these ones because the Eater has a lot of chaos damage and I don't really have very much in the way of chaos resistance. This might not be the most efficient way to path. I'm just doing it. I don't even need those, do I? I don't think, but we'll take them, and that's just Eater. Yep. And then I'm going to take strong boxes as well, because they're fairly easy to do. So we'll add strong boxes in. Oh, I've already got strong boxes there. Did not know that. So I'll add these ones in. These ones aren't particularly great, but we've got points, so we may as well add the other ones in. Now, do I just take all of them? Oh, let's just take them all. It doesn't matter. Okay, and then we'll take these as well. Just for extra monsters for our Sentinel. And that now looks good to go. So this is going to be a bit of a bloodbath, I think, from our perspective. The way I've done the series before, because I record at quite a high quality and like just a couple of minutes is a couple of gigabytes of storage. So I haven't recorded every map. I've just done the odd map. I've wiped loads of old footage, so I am going to record every single map that I do. So then I can pick the real kind of juicy parts, the deaths and the drops. Then we'll get to the end and then we'll sum up what currency I've got. And then we'll go and buy the fragments to try and take on Sirus. So we'll jump into the highlights and then I'll see you at the end for what could be a very interesting boss encounter. So we're now 10 red maps down, and that was absolute carnage. I died quite a few times. I died 4 times in one map. But I knew that'd be the case going altar farming, but it's what I needed to do just to get the last few bits of currency to push the build just a little bit further. But however, because I was using Sentinels, I was chiseling and outgoing all my maps. I actually didn't end up that down on XP. I think I started on early 50s and ended up on 46. So it's not the end of the world. We also had some decent drops, as shown in the background, along with some deaths. I dropped my sulfur flask for some of the maps because it just felt awful not having phasing. So for some of the more juicy maps, I ran a phasing flask instead. Because there was definitely one time I died because I ran out of flame dash charges and just couldn't move through like a group of mobs that have been empowered by Sentinel. So in regarding drops for that session, I had an exceptional gem div card drop, which is 23 to 25C. I had loads of Eldritch Embers drop, mostly grand. I think I had 20 Embers in total from 10 maps. I had 2 Divine Orbs from 6 links from Strongboxes. I had 1 Armor Recombinator, 1 Weapon Recombinator, and then 23 Raw Chaos. And I also sold the Expedition Sentinel that I picked up in the last episode for 100C. So I had a decent amount of currency, like between 150 to 200C. So I decided I might as well spend all the liquid chaos that I've got from selling the above items to get the final upgrades that I needed. So shown in the top left is the footage of me purchasing the items. So I bought 2 cluster jewels. I bought 1, so we'll just bring up the tree. So I bought 1 crit cluster. Now the reason I've bought this is because to get the cluster in, I've had to drop all of these nodes, and there were quite a few crit nodes along the way. And I don't know what brittle is going to be like on Sirus. It might be a waste running a crit one if I get decent brittle, but I have a feeling it's only going to be around 7 brittle that I get on Sirus. So I bought a crit one with double damage crit chance, and then I thought effective non-damaging ailments would help because that boosts the brittle up even more, and it's also got 40% base crit chance. And then the other one is the bog standard projectile medium cluster, which is eye to eye and repeater. The other thing I did is I spent some currency buying gem cutters prisms. I bought 60 just to get all of my gems within my 6 link other than inspiration up to 20%. Ideally, I would like to get Defiance banner qualityed up because that increases the effect of the aura, but I don't have any more currency to buy any more GCPs, and it's kind of a minimal upgrade to defenses. And then the last thing I bought was a Corrupted Blood jewel. It's nothing special. It's all I could afford. I only had 20C left. So I've gone for projectile speed and attack speed. So we'll just slot that in instead of this jewel when we go and tackle Sirus. And then the last thing I did, which I'll go through on the gear now, is instead of selling my embers, I probably had about 50, 60C worth of embers. I decided to use them on my gear because my Exile implicits were pretty poor. So on the helmet, we've ended up with effective non-damaging ailments, which is nice, and reduced mana cost of attacks, which is awesome. The chest piece, I rolled increased effect of non-curse auras from skills, which is nice. Unfortunately for Eater of Worlds, I don't have any currency left and I don't have any money, and I'm stuck with Ellie Res. I did buy 10 embers for 30C to roll, but I never got anything better than elemental resistances. And then for the gloves, I rolled over the fire damage and ended up, I was actually just going for attack speed because it's quite common, but I ended up getting chance to intimidate, which is even better because as we can see here, enemies take 10% increased attack damage when they're intimidated. And that's really it for the build. I spent a long time looking at upgrades for like amulet, quiver, possibly belt, even bow, but a bow upgrade was probably 2 to 3x. And there was just nothing really that would make it worthwhile spending like 1 or 2x on an item when I didn't even have, like I probably had about 1 Exalt maximum. Didn't want to go spending it on one item. I thought it was much better spread around getting the gems qualityed up and then getting the cluster jewels into play. So I've had to drop a few nodes on the tree to fit the cluster jewel in, as I've said. But because I'm not running steel skin anymore, I don't actually have as high a strength requirement. So it's actually not causing me too many issues. So we'll have a quick look at the currency tab, which is looking very, very sorry for itself. So I sold my Divine Orbs. I've got 5 Chaos left, basically. I've got lots of stuff in here that's worth money, but it's all worth money individually. Really can't be bothered to sell it all to get maybe like 100, 150C. So what I'll do when I finish with the project is I'll just send this over into my main like currency and essence tab. Astragalus can go towards Gwen and gambling, stuff like that. I'm not going to run another 10 maps. I've run 20 white, 20 yellow, and 10 red. And I could run another 10 maps, but I don't feel I would get enough currency to be able to meaningfully upgrade the build. So I'm going to go and run Sirus once I brought the fragments. Then I'll close out the video just by going through kind of how I found the experiment and what I plan to do in the future, and really just summarize the 3 episodes. So I'll be back with you once I bought the fragments.
What's this? A real talent. You'll finally hold my attention.
So that brings us to the end of the series. Sirus was actually much more comfortable than I thought it was going to be. I got a silly amount of brittle on him, so I probably went overboard with the damage and ailment. So I could have actually put some more DPS into the build by dropping the crit cluster for a projectile cluster, but it wasn't needed. Overall, really enjoyed this sort of series because it doesn't take that long. It's gearing the character at the beginning probably takes the longest because you have to be really careful when you're only spending an X. And then it's just 20 white maps, 20 yellow maps, and in this case, 10 red maps. I think the way this sort of series works, because it's fairly quick, it really suits the time I've got to play at the moment, and it keeps the game enjoyable. So I'm definitely going to do it again with a different archetype and different build. So if you've got any suggestions, please leave them in the comments, and I'll pick either the most popular one or the one that sounds the most interesting. But I think I'm going to do a skill that I either haven't used before or haven't used for a long time, and I don't care whether it gets as far as this one. It's not this has to kill Sirus within 50 or 60 maps. It's about how far can I take a build with my limited knowledge of certain things, especially if it's a build I'm unfamiliar with. I'm really looking forward to just figuring it out myself, getting a build put together. And even if, yeah, it struggles in red maps, as long as it's fun, it's only 50 or 60 maps, it's not the end of the world. So that's it for the series, really. I hope you've enjoyed it. I will put a POV in the description for the build at its final form. If you've got any questions about any of the aspects of the series, please let me know in the comments and I'll answer them. But that's it really. So thank you very much for watching. Take care and see you in the next one.